In today's video, we'll share two intense cave diving stories. In one, a group of divers faced a terrifying moment when an iceberg began to break above them, threatening to trap them forever. In the other, a team became separated in the depths, leading to one diver getting fatally trapped beneath a massive boulder. These stories show just how risky cave diving can be. So, without further ado, let's get started. But as always, viewer discretion is advised. In March 2000, the Ross Ice Shelf of Antarctica created Iceberg B-15, making history as the largest iceberg ever documented by surface area. This massive ice formation stretched an incredible 159 by 20 nautical miles, covering 3,200 square nautical miles, comparable to the entire nation of Jamaica or Qatar. The enormous Iceberg B-15 later broke into smaller sections, with one major piece becoming Iceberg B-15A. This massive ice chunk moved northward into the Ross Sea before breaking apart more extensively in October 2005. Jill Heiner set out on a remarkable journey to explore Iceberg B-15's frozen depths in 2001. From her early days watching Jacques Cousteau's underwater adventures to studying the mysteries of the Bermuda Triangle during her school years, Jill felt drawn to the world's unexplained wonders. After graduating with a fine arts degree from York University, she transformed her love for discovery into her life's work. Her passion for underwater photography later led her to Florida, where she refined her expertise under documentary filmmaker Wes Skiles' guidance. Jill and her team achieved a groundbreaking milestone in 1998 by creating the first ever three-dimensional map of an underwater cave. Known for testing limits, she eagerly accepted the chance to venture into Antarctica's remote ice caves. Together with her former spouse Paul Heinert and mentor Wes Skiles, Jill dove into the world of iceberg exploration, determined to unveil unseen wonders. Curiosity, not fear, drove Jill's approach to dangerous situations. She often shared her perspective on cave exploration, noting how others saw only darkness and fear in caves, while she saw endless possibilities and undiscovered paths. This mindset guided her team's preparation as they studied satellite images extensively. Their dedication paid off when National Geographic made an incredible discovery: hidden caves within the icebergs. The prospect of exploring these untouched frozen realms filled Jill with tremendous excitement. The team's first glimpse of the iceberg's towering white peaks left them in awe, with Jill noting its sculptural beauty. However, the initial dive proved challenging, especially for Wes and Paul, who had never experienced such freezing waters. The extreme cold took its toll quickly, particularly on Wes. Within moments of entering the icy water, his suit began leaking, forcing Jill to quickly escort him back to their boat before the cold completely overwhelmed him. The team wrapped him in a sleeping bag and rushed him back to the main ship to recover his warmth. Despite their vast experience, Jill, Paul, and Wes understood the serious dangers of diving into iceberg caves. The threats extended beyond the freezing temperatures, said to include life-threatening conditions like cardiac arrest, hypothermia, and becoming trapped by moving ice formations. Upon entering the iceberg, they encountered an unusual cloudy blend of fresh and salt water, forcing their way through floating ice chunks as they descended deeper into the cave system. The team's exploration led them to an enormous vertical fissure within the iceberg. They descended more than 130 feet, much deeper than expected, where an incredible sight awaited them. The surrounding ice glowed with stunning shades of robin's egg, blue and deep turquoise, while the ocean floor displayed a vibrant palette of reds, oranges, and yellows. The magical moment shifted into something unsettling as massive isopods appeared from above. These creatures, as large as human hands, resembled an eerie combination of spiders and lobsters. They moved freely across the team members, disrupting their equipment and attaching themselves to their diving suits. The ice structure became increasingly unstable as they ventured deeper, producing ominous sounds of settling and cracking. The unsettling noises heightened Jill's concern for their safety. Their situation worsened when they attempted to return. Their entry point had disappeared, blocked by massive ice formations that had shifted during their dive. Time became precious as their air supply diminished. The team searched frantically for an alternative exit, knowing their survival depended on finding one quickly. Fortune smiled upon them when Jill spotted an opening. Their relief was short-lived as they escaped through the passage, only to face a massive calving event that created waves powerful enough to nearly overturn their boat. Though shaken by the close call, their adventurous spirit remained unbroken, driving them to plan another dive. The subsequent dive brought fresh challenges to overcome. Increasing water pressure and strong currents threatened to push them off course. The team's situation became dire when they found themselves trapped, pulled deeper into the iceberg's interior against their will. The darkness surrounding them seemed endless until a faint blue glow appeared in the distance, offering a glimmer of hope in their desperate situation. Jill and Paul swam toward the distant light, battling against the water's relentless force. The light remained frustratingly far, making time stretch endlessly. Their hearts sank when they finally reached their destination, only to face an impenetrable wall of ice blocking their escape. The bitter cold seeped into their bones as fear gripped them, but salvation arrived in the form of Wes's voice. He skillfully maneuvered the boat to their location, pulling them to safety. The team's determination remained unshaken despite their brush with danger. They ventured back to the iceberg for another dive, driven by their mission to capture essential footage. The icy waters welcomed them with intense pressure, dragging them toward a massive crevasse with unstoppable force. In the midst of their struggle, Wes called out desperately to Jill for help with the camera. Her response burst forth with raw emotion. "Forget the camera, we might die." Yet Paul moved back to assist Wes, leaving Jill bewildered by his choice. Through their combined efforts, they managed to push the camera toward the entrance, but their battle continued. The relentless water pressure fought against their every move as they slowly advanced up the crevasse. Their muscles burned with exhaustion, yet they persisted. Inspiration struck Jill as she remembered the tiny ice fish they had encountered earlier. These small creatures, no larger than her palm, lived in holes throughout the ice. These holes, she realized, could serve as their lifeline. The team utilized these natural handholds, climbing steadily toward safety. Their progress was slow but steady until they finally broke through to the surface, gasping with relief. 2 hours of arduous swimming brought them back to the ferry, their bodies drained and spirits shaken by the ordeal. Their adventurous spirit remained alive despite everything, leading them to prepare for one final dive. Yet nature had other plans. During their meal break, the very iceberg they had explored began to crumble. Massive ice chunks crashed into the water, creating powerful waves that threatened their boat. The realization struck them hard. They would have perished if they had still been inside the iceberg during its collapse. Nature had spared them this time, but the experience served as a powerful reminder of their mortality. The thrill of exploration had driven them to push boundaries, yet nature's awesome display of power taught them valuable lessons about respect and humility. Their close encounter with death highlighted the delicate balance between human determination and nature's overwhelming force, forever changing their perspective on their dangerous pursuit. Deep within the Bahamas, protected by a barrier reef, lies one of the most treacherous yet mesmerizing natural formations known to divers, the Four Shark Blue Hole. This underwater cavern, locally known as the Calic Cavern, stands as a massive blue hole with its entrance adorned by a coral-rimmed basin approximately 33 feet, 10 meters, in depth. The cavern descends to 197 feet, 60 meters, and perhaps beyond, with an extended rift plunging to depths of 344 feet, 105 meters. Its magnetism stems from both its immense size and the enigmatic depths. coupled with powerful tidal currents that churn the waters, making it an equally fascinating and dangerous destination for those brave enough to venture into its depths. Yet the perils of this uncharted realm spare none, not even the most seasoned divers. Rob Parker lived and breathed cave diving. His unwavering passion for exploration had driven him for years, with his expertise refined through decades of hands-on experience. From his earliest days, Rob carried an endless thirst for adventure, but his most remarkable achievements came from diving into blue holes, those deep underwater caverns that balance precariously between mystery and danger. At the young age of 21 in 1983, Rob embarked on an expedition with fellow divers. This mission demanded diverse skills beyond mere diving, combining rock climbing, scuba diving, extended camping, and cave exploration to navigate the dangerous waters and confined passages. Despite his youth, Rob emerged as a natural commander, readily taking control and steering the team through the most challenging situations. His boundless enthusiasm inspired others, while his relentless drive to complete each mission remained unequaled. As time passed, Rob's achievements multiplied. He earned recognition for spearheading expeditions into the most challenging caves, consistently leading from the front, whether guiding teams through dangerous water-filled passages or scaling seemingly impossible rock formations. His adventurous spirit remained undiminished, matched only by his exceptional abilities. In August 1997, Rob, a seasoned 35-year-old diver, embarked on what would become his final dive. He traveled alongside 5 fellow divers, including his diving partner Dan Malone and Steffi, the widow of Rob Palmer. Their destination was the Bahamas, where they aimed to create a documentary about the blue holes, a heartfelt tribute to Rob Palmer, who had lost his life during a dive in the Red Sea mere months before. For 2 weeks, the team immersed themselves in filming and exploring the vast chambers of the four-shark blue hole. Yet deep within Rob, a dangerous desire stirred for something more challenging. Beyond the filming project, Rob found himself drawn to a narrow passageway, the rift, tucked away at the cavern's rear, rarely explored by others. Tales of this uncharted, shadowy passage descending into the depths had reached his ears. Though safety protocols prevented the filming crew from permitting such exploration, Rob's adventurous spirit remained undeterred. The prospect of venturing deeper and uncovering hidden mysteries became an overwhelming desire. This burning ambition led Rob to make a fateful choice. He and Dan would explore the forbidden passage before the filming team returned. The dive plan involved descending with compressed air to 220 feet, 67 meters, then proceeding deeper to 250 feet, 76 meters. At this point, they would transition to Trimix, a specialized blend containing 15% oxygen, 40% helium, and 45% nitrogen. This carefully calculated mixture would protect them from nitrogen narcosis and other diving-related complications in the deeper sections. For their ascent, they positioned additional cylinders at 120 feet, 37 meters, to manage their decompression stops. As evening approached, at approximately 8 p.m., they began their descent. Their mixed gas and oxygen cylinders remained secured at 30 feet, 9 meters, near the entrance. The surrounding water stood still and cold as they moved through the expansive main cavern, its darkness stretching endlessly before them. Upon reaching the rift, a nearly vertical crack extending hundreds of feet downward, they started their journey along its narrow corridor into the mysterious depths. The rift revealed itself as more than a simple rock fracture. Its complex network of tight passages and unexpected turns varied in width, creating navigation challenges. Descending to 220 feet, 67 meters, they found themselves deep within the rift, far removed from the main cavern's safety. Complete darkness enveloped them, with immense water pressure bearing down from above. At this point, their fixed guideline ended, prompting Dan to secure a new reel to extend their path forward. The passage at this depth provided enough space for both divers to move relatively freely. despite its narrowness. As they pressed deeper, the cavern's unsettling silence surrounded them. Switching to trimix, Rob and Dan persisted in their descent into the darkness. Their exploration extended beyond the planned duration as they reached the guideline's end. Dan experienced a failure with his trimix cylinder's regulator, but kept this information from Rob. He maintained the dive using his backup tank, following Rob deeper into the cavern. The physical toll of the dive began mounting, yet Dan remained silent, adhering to established protocols. The situation deteriorated as they reached 250 feet, 76 meters. During their ascent, events took an alarming turn. Rob led the way, passing beneath a massive boulder. Dan noticed Rob's unusual behavior. He was descending while still breathing, apparently unconscious. Fear gripped Dan as he swiftly descended after Rob, managing to grasp his ankle and halt his fall at 230 feet, 70 meters. Though Rob regained consciousness, his condition remained concerning. As they navigated back toward the guideline, Dan battled rising anxiety. A challenging restriction lay ahead, forcing them to choose between passing above or below the line. Rob opted for the upper route, while Dan took the lower path. Air supplies reached critical levels. Dan's tank showed merely 300 psi remaining. He pressed forward, successfully negotiating the restriction to reach the decompression tank positioned at 120 feet, 37 meters in the main cavern. After taking 2 breaths from the tank, Dan turned back toward the rift. His flashlight beam pierced the darkness, searching desperately for signs of Rob. The beam revealed nothing but empty water. Rob had vanished into the depths. In desperation, Dan alerted the surface support divers, initiating an immediate recovery operation. Rob's location remained elusive initially. The following day brought success when divers Brian Kakuk, Dan Malone, and Steffi Schwabe discovered Rob's body wedged in a narrow vertical restriction at 149 feet, 45 meters below the surface. The recovery process proved challenging. The confined passage necessitated the removal of Rob's diving equipment to extract his body. Through persistent efforts, the team eventually succeeded in bringing his remains to the surface. While no formal autopsy took place, both the diving team and U.S. Coast Guard investigator Mike Popovich concluded that nitrogen narcosis likely caused the incident. This condition, known in diving circles as the rapture of the deep, typically induces disorientation and mental confusion, particularly at depths exceeding 200 feet. The evidence suggested that Rob, affected by this condition and trapped within the rift, failed to free himself before running out of air. The news of Rob Parker's passing reverberated throughout the diving community. Despite his extensive experience and expertise, the perils of deep cave exploration claimed his life. His final resting place marked the end of a remarkable journey, leaving an emptiness in the hearts of his fellow divers, family members, and friends.